brings me great pleasure to officially inaugurate the National Council on Privatization.
The mandate is one of commercialization, privatization, optimizing government investment.
Internal audit is about following due process in all the activities we do. We don't compromise at all. We don't compromise. Your friendship is different and your profession is different. If you want to be a reputable organization, definitely you have to separate, draw a line between your profession and friendship. Since there are rules and regulations guiding you, the internal audit is nobody's friend. It looks like you are witch hunting people.
Welcome to OTNA, your window to information on optimization.
BPE is a great partner. They have sustainably supported the system. They have worked in partnership with us, and together we have been able to, we cannot say as of today that the celebration we're having today would have been made possible without a value-adding partner. So BPE has always been there for us, and we have worked together in bringing out the innovations that you see here today. We have also ensured and made it mandatory that every year we plant a minimum of 1,000 trees. And besides that, we have also reduced the carbon footprint significantly by eliminating the use of fossil vehicles in our premises. And we've also, like you see now, the vehicle we are riding on, it's an electric buggy. We have 3 of these currently in the estate that conveys staff from their residence to the office, ensuring that we don't have carbon dioxide production anywhere. We've also introduced electric cycles, which also helps which improves the life-being of our staff. The idea of going on vehicles that brings a lot of combustion into the air has been eliminated. So the electric buggies, in total, we have about 9 of them. We have 3 currently here. With the remaining 6 are currently coming into Egbin as we speak. And all these are just to ensure that areas where combustion, where you could have CO2 in this premises are completely eliminated. All these are aimed at ensuring that we have not just a healthy environment, but an environment that promotes environmental sustainability. We are among the first in West Africa that has invested so much in ensuring that you can live freely and work freely in a healthy environment.
Welcome once again to the program OTNA, Optimizing the Nation's Assets. Today on OTNA, we're going to a unit that's very, very essential, not just to the Bureau of Public Enterprises, but particularly to the National Council on Privatization, NCP. The NCP is chaired by the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON. And this is to ensure that every decision taken on privatization and commercialization is done right. Now let's meet my guest today. He is Head Legal Services and Council Secretariat of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE. Is Mr. Jide Adesonya, and we're so glad to have him on OTNA today. Thank you very much for joining us on OTNA, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start from understanding, give us a background of your early career and provide us an overview of your professional background and what led you to the Bureau of Public Enterprises. And we're asking this question because being the head of legal services is one, but being head of the Council Secretariat is a big deal. So we'd like to know your background.
So after being called to the Nigerian bar, I started work with a law firm, Olaniwa Ajayi, in the corporate commercial department. And then after that, I joined another law firm called Rockville & Co. as a partner. That was a different experience, more challenging, because as a partner, obviously you have to win business for the firm. I think what attracted me to the position was actually the strategic mandate of the Bureau of Public Enterprises. You know, a lot of people complain about, you know, the economy and where we are. I think that what excited me was that, you know, this was an opportunity to be part of the solution in terms of achieving and delivering economic growth and development for the economy.
Yeah, so having spoken in season one with some persons who've served in the capacity you served, obviously this job entails quite a lot because you're doing some work as legal services, but you also are the Council Secretary. Tell us about what you do in both jobs and how you combine it effectively.
So you've got it. It's a very challenging role, but again, an extremely interesting and rewarding role. So as the Council Secretariat, we are, you know, as that entails, we are the Secretariat to the National Council on Privatization, and then also the committees of the National Council on Privatization. So the Finance Committee, the Technical Committee, the Legal Committee, and then the Stakeholders Engagement Committee.
So you have several committees you have to work with.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
It's quite a lot. Let's look at what your challenges has been in this job. Because I'm sure apart from what you do, you also take a look at transactions done, the privatization, commercialization transactions. Tell us what key challenges you faced in legal services at the BPE and at the Council Secretariat.
Okay, so as I spoke about what we do as a Council Secretariat, but also another crucial role is the legal services, the legal services work that we do. So we provide essential services for the Bureau, from drafting contracts, legal review, providing legal opinions, regulatory work, and then in terms of what you mentioned now, in terms of transactions, we work very closely with the department, who are the custodians of the transaction itself. They're the ones who implement the transactions, but we work very closely with them in order to successfully deliver the transaction. And in doing so, we also work with the transaction advisor. I think in terms of challenges, challenges would depend on the transaction, it would depend on the sector. So right from the National Council on Privatization, and then also the Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act is embedded certain safeguards to ensure transparency and to ensure that our processes, our transaction processes follow due process. Every transaction goes through the technical committee. And again, you look at the makeup of that, both private and public sector members who scrutinize, who interrogate the transactions from different perspectives. We also have the legal committee, again, which also looks at the legal framework and ensures, so review of transaction documents, obviously from a legal perspective, just to ensure that ensure transparency and to ensure that government's interest is protected.
What achievements can you point at and say, look, what we do at the BPE, we don't just work, we see success and it's happened and you can feel it. Share with us such stories if there are.
Okay, so there are a number, right? And people point to the, again, I mentioned there's a little bit of skepticism, to put it mildly, about the privatization program. But I think that the reform and privatization program has actually been incredibly successful. So you look at pensions. What we had before, we've evolved into the reform process has put in place a contributory pension scheme, which has grown total pension assets to over 16 trillion naira. That's massive. Look at telecoms. Okay, I can sit here and reel out some stats, but how has that impacted the average Nigerian? Everybody has a phone now. Mobile phones are mobile banks. You can do your shopping on there. You can order food. You can. It's now a virtual office as well. I think the reform process has actually been tremendously successful.
OTNA, optimizing the nation's assets.
All right, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll want to hear from you how you're able to identify enterprises that default in their terms and agreements as co-investors, and what's done to them to know if it just passes by. We'll get to know that. So we'll take a short break, and while we take this break, you get to also see some of the success stories of what the BPE has actually done and how they're affecting us as Nigerians. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
I don't think that Nigeria is irredeemable. Nigeria is redeemable, and we have the expertise in-house. There's no sector of the economy you will not find Nigeria excelling, either in Nigeria or outside. It's a question of picking the proper team.
The nature of investment required in power sector is also humongous. Government has tried also through some forms of guarantees to make sure there's a measure of liquidity in the system.
What service are these public enterprises giving? At what cost are they giving?
So what we do when we are dimensioning what should be our risk is to say, okay, which one is institutional, which is like strategic risk, which one is transactional, and which one are the normal process risk.
That BP has capacity, it has the required manpower to carry out reforms, and therefore, for me, BPE has a very important role in terms of advocacy, in terms of implementation.
We're intentionally creating an organization where innovation is the hub, is the natural energy that we generate on a daily basis.
We delve into handling, and I know the reason why. I believe handling is more, robust in the size. It's not carrying too much risk.
What we have realized in power is that, with the right tariff, you can give everybody power.
There are what we call essential indicators, there are complementary indicators. All of these are set out in the KPIs. Beyond the KPIs, we also have industry standard indicators that we also put on those.
And ensure that policies are consistent. Regulation must be consistent. You can't do this today, tomorrow you do this. So if investors don't have clarity, if you don't have clarity on what is happening in the industry, they will stay away.
Every country learns through doing where the pitfalls are, and you get better. So BPE has had a lot of experience doing that, and that's why I say you're not going to find any agency in this country that's had the kind of experience that we've had.
OTNA, optimizing the nation's assets.
Thank you very much for being here with us. Good to know that you're there. This is OTNA, optimizing the nation's assets. What do? We check on what the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, is doing as the Secretariat of the NCP, the National Council on Privatization, to ensure that all the works done in privatization benefit us as Nigerians. My guest is Jide Adesonya. He's head of legal services at the Bureau, and he's also head of the Council Secretariat at the NCP. Once again, thanks for being with us on the program.
Thank you.
Now, let's get to it, shall we? So sometimes it's possible. You write exams and not everybody passes. Some people fail, some pass. So it's apparent that there must be sometimes maybe defaulters when it comes to core investors or agreements that are signed. How do you identify them and what's done? Give us examples.
Okay. Again, it's important to understand what the Bureau does. Apart from privatization, there is a critical element of that, which is post-privatization management, which is handled by the post-transactions management department. This department is responsible for monitoring privatized and reformed assets in order to ensure that they're complying with their covenants under the transaction agreements. So under the transaction agreements, it's not simply about just selling an asset and then, going our separate ways. These assets are supposed to be optimized in order to, contribute to the economy. So as part of the transaction documents, they would our private sector partners will enter into a performance agreement, and embedded within that performance agreement is what we call a post-acquisition plan. And that post-acquisition plan basically articulates the plan of the private investor to revive that asset, to optimize the operations of that asset. It's about assisting the private sector investor to ensure that those defaults are cured, and to ensure that that asset continues to operate optimally.
Yeah, so certainly it's a collaborative effort, because if it fails, we all fail. So everybody has to work. It brings me to this question. I think it's more of a personal question, if you like. You were first Nigerian before you are head of legal services at the Bureau of Public Enterprises. So I want to ask you, do you believe that the privatization and commercialization initiatives as spearheaded by the government have impacted the Nigerian economy in the long run? If your answer is yes, which I guess it will be, give us examples.
I have to, as a Nigerian, I can understand the skepticism. If we're being honest. But I think if we're objective, then I think I have to say that yes, this has been a tremendous, the FGN reform program has been a tremendous benefit to the Nigerian economy and to Nigerians.
So that brings me to lessons learned. While you've been working, you must have learned a lot on the job.
I think in terms of sustainability, it's the lessons learned, really. So within the Bureau, transactions are handled essentially by the transaction departments. Like I said, legal services is a support unit to the transaction departments. But after every transaction, the Bureau has essentially a process whereby we not simply document the transaction, but key in on specific challenges that we had and how those challenges can be overcome. In fact, now, as a result of that, we now have a chief risk officer in the Bureau, and his, or it could be hers, it's a him at the moment, and his role is to work closely with the departments and then also with the legal services unit in order to identify potential risks and then to identify key mitigants as well. So it's important that those lessons are brought to bear in terms of future transactions.
Okay, how does this trickle down to your staff? Do you do trainings? What do you do to ensure your staff are at par with current trends and doing their job the way it should be done?
So at the Bureau, we have a training regime. So every single member of the Bureau, so not simply in the legal services unit, but every single member of staff is trained at the Bureau.
All right, finally, before we go, what's your message to Nigerians, especially the skeptical ones who say, when will we see the full result?
I think my message to Nigerians is to be patient and to trust the administration. I think that there are a number of things which are being done right now, especially, the power sector is something that touches all of us.
Certainly a good place to live it. Let me thank you very much, Mr. Jide Adesanya. This has been revealing and I would say engaging as well. Almost you make me feel like going to study law and become a lawyer. Thank you very much for joining us on OTNA. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And that's it on OTNA today. I'm sure you've been enlightened, educated as much as I've been. The legal services do a lot of work, and as Secretariat of the NCP, a lot of work is done by the head of the legal services, all to ensure that we have what we need to have as Nigerians, which is optimize our assets. It takes two to tango. You and I playing our parts, the Bureau doing what they need to do, and we giving them the necessary supports. Together, we'll achieve great things for our country, Nigeria. We'll leave it there today. On behalf of the team, my name is Tokwe Ojeme. It's been an honor being with you once again today. Join us next week.
OTNA, optimization on the go.